forward to that. Developing right now, the U.S. has the highest rate of gun-related deaths in more than 25 years, and that's according to the CDC. And this story is affecting a lot of people right here in the Mid-South.
Tonight, we decided to use that report to take a deeper dive into what we're seeing here in the Mid-South and how we might work to fix some of the challenges plaguing us right now. Fox 13's Daniel Wilkerson joins us live from Fraser. Daniel, you had a prominent faith leader. Take a look at that report. And what was the takeaway?
You know what? He had a lot to say. And the thing is, in 2020, we saw 332 homicides. In the following year, 2021, we saw 346 homicides. Both years, by the way, we broke a record. Memphis police saying that a lot of those homicides committed by teens. And so with this newest report coming out from the CDC, we wanted to take a look at possible solutions.
There's a direct correlation between poverty and violence.
Dr. Earl Fisher with Abyssinian Baptist Church basically sums up there the results of a recent CDC report.
But what we have heard as the primary solution coming out of government is more police officers.
The pastor doesn't think that's the solution, and the CDC report did not suggest that. But the fact is, in Memphis, for the last 2 years, we've broken the homicide record. The report takes an even wider look at here in the U.S. It shows during the pandemic, the firearm homicide rate in the United States reached its highest level since 1994, a 25-year high in 2020. The report finds those rates grew nearly 35% between 2019 and 2020. The CDC found these weapons were involved in 79% of all homicides and more than half of all suicides in 2020. Rates for the firearm homicides increased for both men and women. The largest increase in firearm homicide rates were among black males ages 10 to 24 and 25 to 44.
I think it's something about over 50% of all violent crime is committed by less than 1% of the population.
But he says the approach that's being used to fix the problem doesn't reflect that.
The conversation that we have about solutions is, let's do this blanket approach, which is ultimately mass incarceration. Let's be tough on crime. Let's lock people up. Let's not deal with the structural and systemic inequities as if the majority of our community is engaged in that type of behavior. It's not true. The vast majority of citizens in Memphis, especially the black ones, do exactly what they're supposed to do every day. The vast majority of parents do exactly what they're supposed to do with their children every day.
So you heard the doctor there make a good point. It's one that I've heard before, that the majority of the crimes are committed by a small percentage of the population. But I wanted to ask the doctor, and I did ask him, how do you get into the mind of a young person who thinks that gun violence is the answer, or is that even the route to go? Take a look at that part of the story for Fox 13 News at 10. Reporting live in Orange Mound, Daniel Wilkerson, Fox 13 News.
Thank you, Dan.